I met Lila in a moment that felt designed by a rom-com. I was balancing 2 coffees and a laptop at a crowded airport gate when the strap on my bag snapped. She caught the laptop with one hand, my sanity with the other, and said, "You look like a spreadsheet, learn to walk." I laughed harder than the joke deserved. We traded seats on the plane so a family could sit together, split a pack of pretzels, and swap numbers over the hum of the engine. She was a photographer who could make a rainy alley look like Paris. I was a product manager who could make chaos line up in a roadmap. We dated for 2 years, got engaged under string lights in my parents' backyard, and started arguing about napkins and playlists the way engaged people do when they're actually arguing about control. At first, the differences were cute. I was a list, she was a lyric. I arrived 10 minutes early. She arrived with flair. When we fought, she teased me for being safe, and I teased her for turning everything into a story. We made up quickly. Diner pancakes at midnight. Long walks where she tucked her cold hands into my jacket sleeves. That soft peace you feel when you think you've found your person. Then the wedding machine started grinding. Guest list grew. Budgets stretched. Her mother had opinions that traveled. Somewhere in there, control stopped being a joke and became a habit. Lila began testing boundaries in little ways. Let's skip your family Sunday dinner. My friends are more fun. Cancel that work trip. We need tasting day. Post photos of us more. It helps my engagement. I could have said no more often. I didn't. She was persuasive, and I was in love. The week everything changed began with an invitation. My best friend's bachelor party. Owen and I had been through everything. Broken transmissions, midnight ER runs, huddled exam cramming. He picked me as best man because, as he put it, no one else labels the coolers. We planned something tame, a cabin by a lake. Grilling, cards, hiking, and one night where we wore tuxedo t-shirts as a joke. Everyone's fiancé or wife had blessed the plan months ago. Everyone except Lila. She listened to the outline with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But you're going to disappear for a whole weekend, right, before our wedding to celebrate someone else's?" she asked. "It's been on the calendar since January," I said. "One weekend. No Vegas. No trouble." She stirred her tea, then looked up with the kind of cool-eyed scene in her when a client tried to cut her rate. "If you go to your best friend's bachelor party," she said evenly, "I'll sleep with my ex." The words didn't shout. They landed like a stamp. She sat very still, as if daring me to blink first. A younger version of me would have pleaded, argued, promised a FaceTime from every porch step. The version sitting at our kitchen table heard something different. Not jealousy, not fear, but a lever. I set my mug down, made sure my voice didn't wobble, and said, "Do whatever you think is right." For a second, surprise cracked her confidence. Then she tilted her head and smiled like I'd just proven her point. "Okay," she said, standing. "Okay." I didn't sleep much that week. I also didn't cancel. I reminded myself of something my dad told me when I was 16 and letting a teammate push me around. If love requires you to shrink, it's not love. It's theater. Friday arrived with clear skies and the kind of group text that makes men feel 12 again. Cooler assignments, a bad playlist, directions that included the phrase, "turn by the tractor." Lila kissed my cheek like a social formality, said, "Have fun," and added, "Tell Owen I said hi." The sweetness tasted like salt. I grabbed my duffel, locked the apartment, and told myself the weekend would show me who we were. The cabin sat on a low ridge above the water, a neat rectangle of wood and windows with a deck that faced the sunset. Owen grinned when I pulled up. The guys were already arguing about the correct way to stack firewood, which is to say they were happy. We grilled that first night, told the old stories we always tell, and by the time the stars came out, the world felt level again. Around 10, a familiar face stepped onto the deck, backlit by kitchen light. For a second, my brain couldn't place him without a city behind him. Then it clicked. It was Miles, Lila's ex. He looked older than in the photos I'd glanced at once years ago when curiosity got the better of me. Still tall, still handsome in a catalog way, but the edges were softer, the swagger quieter. He held up a six-pack like a white flag. "Owen invited me," he said, sheepish. "We work together now." Small world. My ribs tightened. Owen hurried over. Man, I meant to tell you, he said. He joined a firm last month. I figure it was water under the bridge. You okay? I looked at Miles. He looked at me, hands open. I'm not here for drama, he said. Congratulations on the engagement. Seriously. Instead of reacting, I asked him a question. Do you know Lila told me if I came here, she'd sleep with her ex? The deck went quiet. Miles' eyebrows shot up. That's not something I want to be part of, he said carefully. We haven't spoken in over a year. We ended because we wanted different futures, and she needed attention I couldn't keep up with. He shrugged, uneasy. I don't mean that unkindly. She's built for a spotlight. I'm not. I pulled out my phone, opened the messages from that morning. Her ultimatum, the screenshots of her calendar blocking catch-up drinks, the link to a bar she and Miles used to like. I didn't accuse. I asked, is this where you're meeting her tomorrow? He read the link, then shook his head with conviction. No, I have zero interest in being a prop in anyone's test. He looked genuinely disgusted. Let me be clear for your peace of mind. Not happening. Something unknotted in my chest. Not relief exactly, but clarity. I tapped the camera, snapped a live photo of the deck. Owen laughing, Miles lifting the six-pack, the guys in the background doing a victory pose with their lopsided firewood stack, and sent it to Lila with one caption. Astra's small world. We're all here. Thought you'd want to know before you made choices you can't unmake. Asterisk. The typing bubble appeared instantly, then disappeared. A minute later, a text. Why is he there? Another. Are you trying to set me up? Then, this is manipulative, Eli. She called me Eli when she was angry, shortening my name as if she could trim me into compliance. I typed back. Asterisk no games. Just honesty. He works with Owen now. He says he's not interested. Whatever you do next is yours alone. Asterisk. She called. I let it ring out. She texted. Answer me. Then, you're punishing me. Then, I'm coming up there. Then nothing for a while, as if the signal had fallen through a canyon. Owen watched my face as the phone lit and dimmed. You want to go inside? He asked. No, I said. I want to be exactly where I am. Outside. Clear. We played cards. We told more stories. Miles turned out to be better company than my insecurities allowed. Self-deprecating, newly sober, the kind of man who owns his mistakes out loud. At midnight, he turned in early. Before he did, he paused by my chair. For what it's worth, he said, you're the better fit for her than I ever was. But if she's still testing people with threats, I hope you consider whether that's love or theater. I stared at the ceiling fan in my bunk and replayed that sentence until it didn't sting. Morning arrived with bright water and bad coffee. I hiked with the guys, jumped off the dock with Owen like we were 20, and didn't check my phone until mid-afternoon. When I did, there were 8 messages from Lila, 3 angry, 2 pleading, 1 selfie from outside the cabin gate, and finally, a photo of her suitcase on our apartment floor with the caption asterisk, let's start over. I didn't mean it, asterisk. I knew better than to drive back in a panic. I also knew better than to reply with a monologue. I sent one line, asterisk, I'll be home Sunday afternoon. We'll talk with a counselor, not like this, asterisk. That night, as the sun went down in gold and the loons called across the lake like a movie cue, Miles sat beside me on the steps, handed me a bottle of water, and said, for what it's worth, do not confuse staying calm with letting people walk on you. You can be kind and still draw a line. I think I finally understand that, I said. We got back Sunday to a kitchen that smelled like lavender detergent and nerves. Lila had cleaned, which meant she wanted to reset a stage. She wore a soft sweater, no makeup, a careful expression. I'm sorry, she said before hello. I was scared you'd go and forget me. That's not what you said. I answered, keeping my voice low. You threatened me. There's a difference. She folded her arms, unfolded them. I would never actually, I just wanted you to pick me. I did, I said. I proposed. I booked a venue. I've been picking you every day. We sat. I showed her the live photo. Owen's smile, Miles' awkward wave, the goofy firewood pyramid. Life is smaller than you think, I said. If you turn everything into a test, you eventually fail the only one that matters. She reached for my hand. I'll make it up to you. This isn't a late library book, I said gently. We need help. We started counseling the next week. The first session was honest enough to hurt. The therapist asked her why she used threats. Lila said, "Because I grew up believing I had to create stakes to be seen." She asked me why I accepted them. I said, "Because I mistook calm for love whenever the alternative was chaos." The second session, she admitted she'd texted Miles as a joke after my live photo. He hadn't answered. My stomach dropped. Not because she'd reached out, but because she'd still wanted an audience. The therapist didn't scold either of us. She simply said, "You can't build a stable structure on a shifting load." I went home and stared at the calendar where our wedding was circled in gold. I thought about Owen's toast in progress, about my mother's dress hanging from a closet door, about place cards and playlists, and how none of those were reasons to keep going if the basic beams weren't right. That night, I slept in the guest room for the first time, not as punishment, as practice. In the morning, I wrote a letter. It wasn't a breakup manifesto. It was a list, my specialty. 3 columns. What I need, what I can't accept, what I hope we could build. At the bottom I wrote, in plain print, asterisk if you need to test love to believe it, you won't believe me. If you want to build trust instead, I will be right here, but not as a prop, asterisk. I left for work with the letter on the table and my phone face down. At lunch, it buzzed. A single text from Lila. Asterisk, dinner at 7? We'll talk. I promise. No tests. Asterisk. Good. I thought we might finally turn toward the same blueprint. Then my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. It was Miles. He sounded awkward, but earnest. "Hey, I thought you should know. She sent me screenshots of your letter." I didn't respond. "I'm telling you because people deserve to know where their words go." The room tilted. Not from jealousy this time. From clarity, sharp as a level line. I thanked him. I finished my sandwich. I scheduled a meeting with myself for 4 p.m. titled Decide. At 6:58, Lila lit candles and set 2 bowls of pasta on the table like an apology. At 6:59, I slid my ring from my finger and set it next to my fork. At 7 o'clock, I told her what I decided. Dinner at 7 wasn't dinner. It was theater, candlelight, the smell of garlic bread, and Lila's careful voice weaving an apology that sounded rehearsed but tender. She looked beautiful in that way that hurts when you know the foundation is cracked. She started soft. "I read your letter 3 times, she said. "You're right. I've been testing you. I thought if you fought harder, it meant you loved me more." I nodded slowly. "Lila, love isn't test. It's a trust fall. You either believe I'll catch you, or you shouldn't jump." She reached across the table. "I can fix this, Eli. We can start over. Delete everything, block everyone, get counseling, cancel the noise. I just need you to forgive me." But something in her tone, the way she said delete everything, pulled at me. It wasn't about honesty. It was about control again. And I realized she wasn't sorry she'd hurt me. She was sorry she'd lost the upper hand. I took a breath. "I forgave you already," I said. "But I can't rebuild on lies." She blinked, taken aback. "What lies?" "I told you everything. You told me what would make you look better," I said evenly. "You sent my private letter to Miles." Her fork froze midair. "Who told you that?" "Miles," I said. "And before you ask, no, he didn't send me screenshots. He just thought I deserved to know where my words went." She looked down, color draining from her face. "I didn't mean—" "Of course you did," I said softly. "You wanted him to see the new narrative. The poor, misunderstood fiancé who's trying to save a relationship with a cold, logical man." The silence that followed wasn't loud. It was heavy, like wet sand you can't shake off. "I wanted him to know I'd moved on," she whispered. "That I wasn't broken after him." "Then why do you keep writing him into our story?" She didn't have an answer. I stood, walked to the counter, and picked up the small ring box I'd kept there for weeks. The engagement ring I designed myself. The one that had cost months of overtime and one very long conversation with my credit card company. I set it on the table between us. "Lila, I love you," I said quietly. "But I love peace more. I love honesty more. And right now, you don't fit into either." She stared at the box, eyes glistening. "You're really ending it." "I'm really setting it down," I said. "You can pick it up if you decide to start being honest with yourself. Not with me, not with him, but with the person you keep pretending to be." Her hands trembled as she pushed back her chair. "You're cruel," she whispered. No, I said. I'm done performing. She left that night, door closing soft but final. The next morning, my phone buzzed with messages from Owen. Hey, Mun, you're all over the group chat. Something happened. Not yet, I replied. But something's about to. By noon, I'd pack my essentials, call my landlord, and move into a small loft near the marina. Quiet, bare in mine. I spent that first week working late and sleeping light, alternating between anger and relief. Then one morning, while walking to work, I got a text from Miles. Asterisk, you should probably see this. Asterisk attached was a screenshot of Lila's new post, a photo of her at a cafe. Captioned asterisk, healing takes time, but love always wins. Asterisk, the comments were full of people saying how strong she was, how proud they were she'd escaped a controlling fiancé. I didn't respond. I didn't defend myself online. Instead, I emailed my attorney to finalize the cancellation of the wedding contract and refund negotiations. I copied receipts, screenshots, and timestamps, not to humiliate, but to protect. A week later, Lila showed up in my office lobby unannounced. She looked nervous, clutching a file folder. I need to talk to you, she said. About what? About what I've done. We sat in the cafe across the street. She handed me the folder. Inside were printouts, DMs between her and Miles, messages she'd sent after our argument. The last one, dated 2 nights ago, read, Asterisk, you were right about him. He's so cold. You'd never have left me like that. Asterisk, his reply was a single word. Asterisk, goodbye. Asterisk. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. He sent those to my mother. She called me crying. He's telling everyone what I did. I just wanted to win. Win what? I asked. She shook her head. Defeated. Anything. I didn't want to feel small. I closed the folder gently. You didn't need to destroy us to feel big, Lila. She covered her face, sobbing quietly. I didn't comfort her. I just sat there, listening to the hum of espresso machines and soft jazz. When she looked up again, I said, You're not a bad person, but you need to stop turning love into leverage. She nodded slowly. I know. I lost everything trying to prove I had control. She stood, wiped her eyes, and said, You deserve better, Eli. I hope you find someone who doesn't test you to believe you. I already have, I said. Myself. She gave a sad smile, turned, and left for good this time. That night, I texted Miles one last time. Asterisk, she came clean. Thank you for not making it worse. Asterisk, he replied. Asterisk, we both learned something. Some people burn bridges. Some build better ones. Asterisk. The next morning, I met Owen for coffee. He grinned. Man, after everything, you still showed up for life. Proud of you. Thanks, I said. Turns out peace is better company than chaos. He laughed. You should put that in your vows someday. Maybe I will, I said, smiling. Later, I deleted the old wedding folder, archived the text, and put my phone face down. For the first time in months, I felt no urge to check it. And somewhere deep down, I knew the revenge wasn't the silence or the calm, or even the fact that Miles had rejected her too. It was that I'd walked away with my self-respect intact. That was the lesson she'd never expected me to learn. 2 months passed after that cafe meeting. The wedding that never happened would have been that weekend. White flowers, a small band, and a guest list full of people who'd now be whispering instead of dancing. But instead of a ceremony, I spent the morning walking along the marina with a coffee in hand, feeling lighter than I had in years. Everything between Lila and me was officially over. The deposits had been refunded, the vendors paid off, and the lease on the apartment was transferred to her. She'd sent one last text. Asterisk, I'm sorry for how I hurt you. I'm starting therapy. Please don't hate me. Asterisk, I'd replied. Asterisk, I don't. Take care of yourself. Asterisk, that was it. No more looping conversations. No more apologies stretched thin over old wounds. But life has a way of handing you sequels when you think the story's done. One gray Wednesday, I got a letter from the county clerk's office, a formal summons. My first thought was that it had something to do with wedding deposits or some other bureaucratic leftover. But when I opened it, I realized it was from Lila's lawyer. She was filing a claim for the engagement ring, saying it was a gift, not conditional property. I stared at the paper for a long time, equal parts irritated and tired. I didn't even want the ring back. I'd already returned it to the jeweler for partial credit. But something about her trying to rewrite the truth again, that was the last straw. I called my lawyer, Harper, the same woman who'd helped me when the relationship started unraveling. She laughed dryly when I explained. "She's testing your patience one last time," she said. "Don't worry. We'll handle this cleanly." The court hearing was set for 2 weeks later. On the day of, I arrived in a gray suit. Not the one I'd planned for the wedding, but close enough. Harper met me outside the courthouse, cool and professional. "Stay calm. Stay factual," she said. "We're not here to humiliate her, just to close the book." Inside, the courtroom was small, quiet, the kind of space where truth echoes louder than anger. Lila was already seated at the petitioner's table, flanked by a lawyer who looked like he billed by the breath. She glanced up when I walked in, eyes flicking with something between shame and nostalgia. We took our places. The judge, an older man with the patience of a saint, looked between us and sighed like he'd seen this movie too many times. "Ms. Jensen," he began, "you're claiming the engagement ring as a personal gift, not part of a conditional engagement agreement. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor," her lawyer said. "My client was given the ring freely. It was not explicitly tied to marriage in writing." The judge nodded, then turned to Harper. "And the defense?" Harper stood, composed. "Your Honor, the ring was given as part of a formal proposal. The wedding did not occur due to my client's fiancé's voluntary termination of the engagement. Case law is clear. The ring is a conditional gift, and since the condition was not fulfilled, it belongs to the giver." The judge leaned back. "Do either party have evidence to support their claim?" Harper handed over a folder. Screenshots of messages, proof of purchase, and correspondence showing Ms. Jensen's intent to end the engagement. "My client also has supporting witnesses." The opposing lawyer smirked. "We object to the involvement of personal communications." "Overruled," the judge said. "If you bring the matter here, you bring the truth with it." Lila's lawyer opened the folder, flipping through the pages, and froze halfway. The color drained from his face. Because inside that folder wasn't just the ring receipt or the text where Lila ended things. It was the screenshot Miles had sent me weeks earlier, the one of her sending him my private letter, using it as a sympathy card. Lila's lawyer leaned in, whispering frantically. She went pale. "Ms. Jensen," the judge said slowly, "did you forward your fiancé's private correspondence to a third party during this engagement?" She swallowed hard. "Yes, Your Honor. But that's not relevant." "It's entirely relevant," the judge said sharply. "It goes to intent and character. You cannot claim the moral high ground in a conditional contract you yourself breached." She looked like she wanted to vanish. I stayed silent, not gloating, just still. The judge reviewed the papers for another minute, then closed the file. "This is clear-cut. The engagement was dissolved due to the petitioner's conduct. The item in question is to be returned or its value reimbursed to the respondent. Case closed." He banged his gavel. It was done. As the courtroom emptied, Lila lingered, clutching her purse. I walked past her quietly, but she caught my sleeve. "I didn't mean for it to end this way," she said softly. "I know," I replied, "but meaning doesn't undo impact." She nodded, tears gathering but not falling. "You really loved me, didn't you?" "I did," I said. "Enough to let you go when you couldn't love me right." I left her there, the echo of that sentence following me all the way to the courthouse steps. Outside, the sky was blue, that honest kind of blue that doesn't pretend to be anything else. I stood there, breathing in air that felt earned. 2 weeks later, I ran into Miles again. It wasn't planned. We both showed up to Owen's postponed barbecue, the new date set for his anniversary instead of his bachelor weekend redo. When I saw Miles, he raised a hand awkwardly. "Hey," he said. "So, peace treaty?" I smiled. "Already signed." He laughed. "You know, Lila messaged me again after the hearing. She wanted to apologize for dragging us both into her storm." "How'd you respond?" He shrugged. "Told her I hoped she learns to stop testing people before she loses the ones who care." Fair answer. We spent the evening talking like normal men who'd been through a weird war and come out clean. No bitterness, no competition, just mutual understanding. When the night ended, Owen gave a toast, half joking, half serious. To Eli, he said, lifting his beer, for surviving emotional warfare and still remembering how to smile. Everyone laughed. I raised my glass and said, to lessons that hurt but heal. By fall, my life had found its rhythm again. Work was steady, my apartment felt like mine, and weekends meant hiking trails instead of arguments. I wasn't dating yet, but I'd stopped, flinching when I saw couples holding hands. That, in itself, felt like progress. Then, one quiet Sunday morning, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name in Lila's handwriting. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a single page. Asteriski, Eli, asteriski. Asterisk, you were right. I didn't need to test you. I needed to heal myself. I'm in therapy now. I've learned more in 6 weeks than I did in our entire engagement. I don't expect forgiveness or friendship, just peace. Thank you for showing me what real boundaries look like. Asterisk. Lila. I folded the letter neatly, placed it in my drawer, and smiled. It wasn't closure from her that I needed. It was confirmation that I'd handled everything with integrity. That evening, I went for a walk by the water. The sky was streaked with gold, and the world felt wide again. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Asterisk. Hey, Eli. This is Kate, Owen's coworker. He said you're the guy who makes the best campfire coffee. Want to test that theory next weekend. Asterisk. I looked at the message, then at the calm reflection of the sunset on the lake. For the first time in a long while, I felt ready to say yes, not to prove anything, not to replace anyone, but simply because I wanted to, and maybe that was the real revenge. Not the courtroom victory, not the calm smile, but the quiet, unshakable peace of knowing I'd kept my soul clean in a story built on chaos. Sometimes, walking away isn't losing. It's winning on a higher level, the kind only people who've been tested truly understand.